Do you ever have something that happens to you and before you know it, you've created this grand, awful story of worst case scenarios? Me too. And I call this future tripping. That's what we're going to chat about today. So please like and subscribe. You can also visit me on YouTube and on Instagram with Live Brighter with Tara or my website, livebrighter.info. Love to see you there. So I want to give you an example of when this happened to me recently. So my husband and I were having a conversation recently, and it triggered him a little, and he went quiet in the conversation, and so he didn't talk much. And so I get triggered because, I've talked about how my previous relationship, the silence meant stonewalling, and it meant 6 days of stonewalling, and it meant never resolving the conflict. And so, unfortunately, I've worked through this a lot, and it's like always a journey, I'm telling you. And so I start thinking, oh my goodness, he's mad. He doesn't love me. Then I go into several different rabbit trails. And this doesn't mean he wants to be with me. Oh my goodness, we could get a divorce. Before I know it, I'm envisioning myself with heartache and alone and pain. But then I realize, oh gosh, I'm future tripping. I'm totally future tripping. The problem with future tripping is, first of all, it's untrue. It hasn't happened, and it's usually negative, the worst case scenarios. So I want to talk about the 5 things that are harmful about future tripping and how we can help and support ourselves as far as our tendency to future trip. And I feel like I'm really great at future tripping if I'm not careful, because I have quite the imagination, which can be used for good and it can be used for harm. And this is one way my imagination is used to harm me. And so the one thing it does is when we're future tripping, it takes our energy and it puts it not in the present. Like we're out there in the future somewhere, but it's not in the present. So it's taking valuable energy that I could be using for the situation, and it's expending it on the what ifs and all of these scenarios. So it takes our energy, number 1. Number 2, it's really good about bringing up our fears and traumas, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because it's like, for me, I'm like, oh gosh, that's my training. That's where I need to do a little bit more work or a little different way of looking at it. But future tripping, if we study it, we're like, oh, I have all these traumas, it's being triggered and it's bringing up my fears. And so it's really could be valuable information when we know that. The third challenge with future tripping is it's hard on our nervous systems, because basically it's creating anxiety and worry, and it's very hard on our nervous system, which brings me to the 4th challenge with future tripping, and that it's addictive, because when we start future tripping, our cortisol and adrenaline start going, which is our brain's way of saying, hey, we're going to focus on this because the actual whatever's going on just seems too hard, so we're going to just future trip. But that adrenaline and that cortisol, super addictive. And so it can kind of make it spiral really easy. That's why it's so interesting how it just starts to spiral. And that's because there's an addictive component to future tripping. And then 5, it's, again, I've alluded to it, it's super distracting from being present and focusing on what's really going on and focusing on processing the feelings that are in the present. And so those are the 5 challenges with future tripping. Well, how do we stop future tripping, or how do we lessen it? Some of these things I think we just are part of our human experience, but we can sure lessen it and become aware and really help ourselves get energy and support by doing that. And so how do we stop this? And I would say STOP, the acronym STOP. And I'm going to be really terrible with that first S for the acronym, and I'm going to actually use the word STOP, which is not how you're supposed to use acronyms, but I'm going to. Because we have to physically shift ourselves in whatever we're doing. Movement is really good to take out the future tripping. So for myself, for example, when I'm future tripping, it's usually one of 2 places. I can be actually, probably a lot of different places, but the main places I future trip, maybe, something happens, and so I start cleaning or organizing, because that actually helps me organize my brain, but then I can start future tripping. And so I have to literally stop what activity that I'm doing. It's like once I notice like, oh my goodness, I'm future tripping. No, we're not going to clean. We're going to stop what we're doing. So that's the first thing. But it could also be reversed, because another great time for me to future trip is when I'm in bed, when I first get up or when I go to sleep or something like that. And if I start to future trip and do that, and I think for me, it's probably more in the morning. If I catch, if I'm having a future trip episode, then I literally have to get out of bed. It's like, okay, stop, and then change the movement. So just change whatever the movement, and that really helps. The second thing, the T, is to tap into the facts. And like, what are the facts of this situation? Because, that's very different than the stories that we're creating. And the O is opt for feeling the underlying feeling. So what happens is, the story starts with this. It starts with a feeling, something that we're feeling, but then we future trip, which creates way more anxiety and way stronger feelings. But our brain is doing that because it's kind of trying to distract us from feeling the original feeling, because it's worried that that's not safe. And so really just opting to feel the underlying feeling is super, super valuable, and then processing that. And I always use the barf notebook process that you can get on the website, livebrighter.info, or it's in the book, the Unravel Notebook. And that's like where I'm barfing it out, on words, writing it out, just kind of putting out my feelings, and then I'm sorting it out, and then I'm planning it out. So I'm opting, and that's how one of the ways I feel it is I feel it through writing. Another way I feel it is by just going inside and being like, oh gosh, this feels like fear, or this feels like anxiety, this feels like separation. And so I just go and I literally go inside my body, and it's like, where am I feeling the sensation? And what does it look like? What shape, what color, what is it? What is it? All of that. And when I go inside and actually feel it, it dissipates. It'll change. It'll also give me information. It'll say, I'm actually, not fearful. I'm actually concerned about, this particular thing. So it's like allows me to settle in and look at it, and really feel the feeling. And it's amazing. Our feelings are not going to last forever. And we are so afraid of feeling our feelings that our brain wants us to future trip, or it'll give us physical pain or anything to distract us. But when we become skilled in feeling our feelings, then it doesn't need to do that as much. And so really just opt to feel our feelings and create a practice of barf notebook, or just pausing and going inside and really looking at that feeling internally in our bodies. So that's the O. For out of stop, our emotional cups can get full without us really even being aware of it. But when our emotional cups get full, we can react rather than respond. We can be fatigued. We can feel burdened. We have struggle with sleep. We can have physical symptoms. And that's why I have the free barf notebook page for you. And it's a simple process done regularly where you're barfing out your thoughts, sorting them out, and planning them out. And it's a wealth of healing in that. So go ahead and check the link and have access to that free barf notebook process. Live brighter every day. And now is the P, provide for yourself. And what that means is like kind of checking in after you felt the feelings and ask yourself, what do you need? And it could be you just need to shake it off. I know a friend of mine, like once she's processed something, like just the physical shake like animals tend to do after a chase, is really beneficial to her. For me, I sometimes will do grounding and just like get in my body and just ground myself with like my mantras, like, God is for me and not against me. I can rest in myself, just like any type of meditation. Like I have a great meditation online at my website, and I do meditations like that to help ground me and just bring me back in. Another thing that helps is laugh it off. I mean, it's kind of funny when we bring some of these stories in the open. They're like, wow, how did we get from, oh my goodness, he just is quiet, to all of a sudden alone and old, So it's just like sometimes we gotta just laugh it off. It's like, oh my goodness, our brains are so funny. So, and just questioning our stories. There's lots of different things we can do to provide for ourselves. Maybe we just need a drink of water. Maybe we need to eat. Maybe we just need some quiet time. So really just checking in and providing for ourselves. So again, when we're future tripping, we can stop. The S stands for just stopped. The O stands, or the T stands for tap into the facts of the situation, like what really did go on. And then O is opt for the feeling, to feel the initial feeling, not the feelings we future tripped on, but feel the actual feeling. And P means provide for ourselves. What do we need? Do we need to shake it off? Do we need to ground ourselves, do a little meditation, just breathe? That's huge. So anything like that. And so we just have to remember that how our brains work. Remember, our brains have a part of it that is, I call the lifeguard. And the lifeguard's job is to save us, protect us. But it does it in kind of weird ways because it doesn't always make sense to us. But this is what's going on. So remember, the lifeguard part of our brain is trying to keep us so safe. It would be happy to keep us in a baby blow-up pool with a life jacket on and no water. That's how, and it's doing its job if it can do that. So basically, our brain sees that, oh my goodness, we're having an initial feeling. It's like, and then it's like, the lifeguard's like, oh, that's a strong feeling. We're not ready to do that. So then it starts to future trip us because it's like, we'll just distract you from it. And it thinks it's helping us, but it really doesn't help us. So if we can just remember, stop, then that is really going to help us. So let's go back to my story. So if I go into the story of the challenge I had with my husband and I tap into the facts is I brought up a conversation and it upset him. And then if I opt to feel the feelings, I was obviously triggered, but the feeling that I was feeling was disconnected because I felt him pulling away. And so if I just feel like, okay, I'm just going to feel the feeling of disconnected. And as I went deeper into the disconnected, it's like, it's not, I don't like feeling disconnected with my husband, but that's also because I really love him. And so just allowing myself to feel a feeling and then providing for myself. And so what I did was a meditation and I just got a little quiet and I took care of myself. It's like, I'm actually thirsty and hungry. I'm going to take care of that. And that's how I provided for myself. Another way to provide is just have a conversation, bring it up. It's a good laugh when we can talk about our future tripping. That's always interesting. The interesting thing is Mike and we've had conversations about how I get triggered with stonewalling, but also how he needs time to himself to process. And so we've had conversations so that I know to give him space because that's just how he processes. But I also know it's going to last a short time, up to 4 hours, 6 hours, not a long time. And so I can just calm my brain because we've had these conversations and we understand how we each work and we make room for how both of us work. But sometimes I'll have to just bring it up into the open and just be like, hey, I'm just feeling a little triggered. And I just want to hear that you love me. And actually I did do that. And he's like, of course I love you. And so just letting whatever we need to do to provide for ourselves in whatever way. And then we can just not have to future trip. We can actually deal with real things in the present and we can handle our emotions. It's great. So that's about future tripping. So go ahead and just pause now. And we're just going to take a deep breath in and breathe out. And one more time, take just a deep breath in and breathe out. And I want you to think, is there a story in your life where that's circulating, that's building, that's future tripping? And I want you to just stop and plan some time to do this practice. To just stop physically what you're doing, tap into the facts, opt to feel the feelings, and then provide for yourself. And you can change that. And it's going to be it's going to have none of those consequences that come with future tripping, and you can actually process your pain and process through interactions that you have. And we can all grow 1% at a time, growing stronger and stronger. I believe in you. Have a great day.